Major Spoilers Podcast. Thank you so much for checking us out this week. And we're not gonna pull any punches. We're just gonna go right to Rodrigo and see what he has in store for us this week
on Critical Hit.
No,
thank you, Brian.
Last time on Critical
Hit.
See,
on Critical Hit,
but it doesn't work when I say it.
No, it certainly doesn't.
Shush.
I mean, it kind of worked.
It did, yeah. It actually might
anyway,
work better than
what did happen last time on Critical Hit?
Critical Hit.
Critical Hit.
Yeah.
We were all summoned to the big meeting of the gods, and we all hung out at the amphitheater until they were ready to speak, and I believe they are ready to speak.
There is much discussion upon seating arrangements.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Valid
discussion upon seating arrangements.
And plus ones and all that stuff.
Yes.
Right. Complicated. These things happen.
Some people got to sit next to a dragon.
Yeah.
Because we're awesome.
Well, you guys are sitting pretty close to a dragon. You're not, actually sitting next to the dragon.
If we were sitting
you are
next to
sitting
it,
within the dragon's melee range,
which is probably not as cool.
Which is huge. But
then again,
are we
all
within its aura of fear?
You would be, yes, but as dragons can dial that up and down. So as higher level adventurers, you are not immediately seized by terror the way that other people might be. If the dragon actually came at you, then you'd have, he would actually start attacking your will.
Sure.
But yes, he is being a good audience member and not causing everybody to flee in a terrified panic, or really the way that Aura of Dread tends to work, paralyzing the entire audience in fearful stupor.
He's saving that for when they need
to
be paralyzed. All opposed?
I'm getting out of here right now. Everyone else can just stand still, and I'm going to make my way out.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, because of the way that rounds work in 4th edition, or in D&D in general, it is a good way for dragons to make an escape. It's just like, okay, on my turn, everybody's scared. Nobody can take attacks of opportunity, and I'm out.
I run. I fly away with my dragony wings.
Dragon fair escape.
A taste of things to come, I'm sure.
Unless it's a green dragon and then we beat it into a corner.
Yep. Well, I don't know that they even make green dragons at these levels anymore. I think they kind of stagger the dragons. So it's like the highest level white dragon is like level 12.
Staggering Dragons is a great band name.
Staggering. Anyway,
it's a Mumford & Sons cover band is what it is.
Oh, Staggering Dragons is a Mumford & Sons cover band?
Yes. It makes perfect sense in my head. Shut up. Because they're Irish. And Irish people love dragons.
Have you heard my new band Creed Ends Clearwater?
Oh.
It's a The Sounds cover band. In any case,
on Critical Hit.
Yes, edit here,
please.
So, yes, this is the group finds themselves at an amphitheater. They are in fact separated. 3 of them are on one side, 2 on the other, plus Sarsa. Do you guys remember what this island is called?
It's Umber Island is what it is.
That's correct. Despite not being a very Umber-looking place.
Correct.
Which is weird when you think about it.
Yeah. Yes, there is an amphitheater. It is full of mostly humanoid critters, as everyone has pointed out. There is a dragon in the stands, as well as other dragons flying above, as well as angels and demons and other strange creatures. At the center of the amphitheater are a bunch of gods. Those gods are Asmodeus, the Obsidian Huntress, Lolth, Tiamat, Arathis, Melora, Corellon, and Grumsh.
Is Grumsh here now? I thought he had sent a...
No, you're right. Grumsh is not actually present. There is in fact, a cleric right at the table, and she has a glowing Grumsh eye on her.
And no sign of secrety, chop off your head guy.
No sign of Vecna. Indeed. So yes, as you guys mentioned, there has been a lot of chatter. Obviously, there's a lot of noise coming from the stands, and the gods are sort of talking amongst themselves. And finally, Arathis calls the meeting to order, and silence falls across the whole amphitheater. It's like everybody quiets down, and then almost a full second later, Grumsh's section quiets down. And Arathis looks around and says, "Well, let's just get everything started. We are here to decide on the future course of the astral sea and the natural world as far as we are concerned. The Treaty of Worms is beginning to fall apart, so we do not have very much time to come to an agreement. At this point, Tiamat leans in and points at the Obsidian Huntress and says, "Well, why is she here? She has no right to be here. She's not a signature of the treaty." And the Obsidian Huntress does not respond. Asmodeus makes a motion with his hand to motion towards her and says, "She retains the Raven Queen's portfolio and power. So I invited her, and she has the appropriate level of clout and sway to take her place at the table. I mean, are you going to complain about Grumsh's little pet there?" And Tiamat looks over at the cleric, looks back at Asmodeus, says, "I might." And then she kind of like crosses her arms. Arathis kind of like waves that whole thing away and says, "All right, well, I have taken the liberty of putting together a plan. It is, I'm sure you will find, very sound. It takes a lot of different ideas into account, and it should work pretty well." And she produces a book that is like, it's like a big solid tome, and places it on the table. At which point, everybody gets a copy. Like literally in front of you, a copy of this thing poofs up and just hits you squarely in the lap.
Oh.
Interesting.
I'll open it and trying to make any sense of it.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Everybody who's pouring through can give me a diplomacy check.
Oh, good. One of the things I'm good at.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
So Randa's going to try it too. Okay.
Sure.
Wow.
I know as much as Ket.
I think we all know as much as Cat.
Well, it's because the
Orm and Sparkle know a little more.
it's because the book retains the verbiage of a lot of the verbiage of the Treaty of Worms, which Randus is familiar with, I'm sure. So yeah, you guys start looking through it. It's pretty arcane and complicated, but it seems to be mostly arcane and complicated to build complex structures and accountability. Probably the most interesting thing about it, or the things that immediately seem different from the Treaty of Worms, is that first off, it allows for like cross-council alliances. Like the Treaty of Worms kind of had this thing where like the Dark Council had to all agree in order to move forward on stuff, and the Pentatheon had to agree. And here you can basically get a majority, and it doesn't have to be. It's not like it's two houses. You can actually reach across the aisle. And more importantly, has several steps which seem to be mystically or divinely enforced for conflict resolution and arbitration, so that the Treaty of Worms had like a gods are not allowed to stab each other clause. This one goes a step further by further limiting the things that deities can just up and do. And kind of still allows them to do it, but you have to go through a process of basically being like vetted by your peers before you can take major actions, like say sending a giant fleet to conquer a random island or something like that.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if that was specifically being stipulated.
It's not specific, but you understand that that's kind of what it's getting at. It's basically major military movements.
Sure. Taking over someone's temple in July.
Yep.
Yeah. Major military movements.
Yep.
So on the whole, does this seem like a good thing or a bad thing?
It doesn't seem terrible. It's definitely different, but it really seems to be trying to split the difference. It's kind of saying like, there is a way for your more impulsive gods to either get enough people on their side to do something big, or to do something big and then argue for it afterwards, but also face the possibility of a cosmic reprimand.
Right.
Which, if they sign for it, they would, like, in part it's their power that punishes them for that. It's like basically the treaty is imbued with the divine power of all the gods who sign it.
So it's like a self-enforcing gesh.
Pretty much. And
Neat.
Again, the thing that's good about this one is that there's some leeway. It's either get people to agree that you can do something and then you can do it, or go do something, and if you then can convince them, you might still get away with it. But
How
also
long
you
is
might get punished.
I guess that period in which you can try to post fact make that okay?
Yeah,
It seems to vary. It seems to vary based on the thing. Some things are immediate. Some things are, you have like 100 years to show up at the courthouse and be like, oh, by the way, I did this. So does anybody want to like slap me on the wrist for it?
The cosmic DMV.
Yeah, and weirdly, you might think like, oh, so it's like murdering a god, immediate. It's like, I mean, it's actually not even name checked. It is bureaucratically in there, but it's kind of a part of like a larger clause of like deprivation of like property and life for another deity. So it's like,
So you're like regulating for the smaller cases because they will definitely get the bigger cases?
Yeah, it's kind of I mean, it's definitely from the point of view of gods, like the things that gods foresee happening and care about happening, like an out and out, like one god shows up at another god's door and stabs them is way, way less likely than a god like smiting a bunch of another god's followers because they're sitting on a territory that they want, right? So
Sure.
those
Makes
ones
sense.
are meant, yeah, those ones are meant to be expedited, and you know, that's where all the hand slapping is. Whereas like bigger things, could actually be justified, or would take longer, would require more evidence, would require longer proceedings, allowing basically everyone to try and get something out of it. You know, it's like, well, you're on trial for god murder, Grumsh. I was like, okay, well, over the next 150 years or so, I'm going to show up and we're going to do things. And like, there might be like restitutions for this or that. And meanwhile, all the other gods are also going to try and get involved and do things. It kind of opens it up for basically wheeling and dealing between the gods. It's complicated and there might be some catches here and there, but there's a lot of openings here.
The old "if you ever kill me and I find out about it" routine.
Kind of.
How do the other gods seem to be reacting as they read?
Tiamat is not reading it. She's just has her arms crossed and is just looking basically back and forth between Asmodeus and the Obsidian Huntress. Grumptious Cleric is reading it pretty intently. Coralon is kind of he's not getting through it very fast. He like has it on the table and he's kind of resting his head on his hands with like his elbows on the table, and he was just like absent-mindedly flip a page every once in a while. He kind of gives it like he's like just kind of looking at the typeface more than actually reading what's happening. Melora seems to be reading it. And Lolth is flipping through it as well. And I'll remind everyone that Lolth looks like a little girl. Like a little drow girl.
What does Tiamat look like again?
Tiamat looks like a lady.
Okay.
She's like a very like 80s space fantasy villain looking lady. Like she has like a wide like collar.
She sounds hot.
Yeah, like no, she is like a villainous,
like
you know,
red.
dark lipstick, red. Yes, dark lipstick, red, and like eyeshadow, red dress.
Oh wow, she sounds hot.
Yeah.
In my head, she went from looking like the five-headed dragon attacking Venger to looking like a Nagel painting.
I mean, yeah, there's kind of that. It's like you know, it's like a really good day for Evil Lyn from He-Man kind of thing. So yes, there are no colossal monstrosities at the center of the thing, despite the fact that at least two of these gods normally appear as enormous monstrosities.
Are they human scale or are they larger?
Yep. They seem to be human scale. At least they're all in scale with each other. It's kind of hard to tell because of the amphitheater.
Right.
But I mean, it could be that if you like start walking towards them, you realize that they're all like 10 feet tall. And it's just like a giant table.
Even though I technically wasn't there the last time I saw them, weren't they giant the last time I saw them when I wasn't there?
So when the Pentatheon appeared to the party 1,000 years ago when we did Celestial Crusade, they were enormous, and they kind of had it was like a chamber where that was designed for them to meet and to interact with like peasants. So you know, they appear enormous, and presumably all of these guys have the ability to change shape and also size pretty drastically.
Well, yeah, half of us do too.
There is a, like I said, when you guys appeared, they were already there. There is a weird sort of like I don't know if banality is the right word, but sort of like a very mundane aspect to all of this. Like there was, as far as you guys could see, no real pomp about them appearing here. This is like the most like workman, like Spartan type meeting that you guys have ever, those of you that have seen gods, have ever seen them in.
I wonder if that's unusual circumstances or if that's the new normal.
Or if all of them expect this to fail as well.
Could be.
While people are reading it, like Asmodeus asks a lot of questions, and they seem to be like perfectly like reasonable questions to ask, like clarifications, and if this happens, then would is it, as this is saying, would this then happen? And like Arathis clears them up.
So he's rules lawyering.
I mean, only in a very like it really seems like so this seems like it's saying this. Is that true? Kind of stuff, but it's not clear. Like, okay, so if I steal 10 pies,
right?
What would happen, right? It all seems to be like things that are just kind of worded in like kind of a Byzantine way. He seems to just be trying to
10
clarify.
10 pies is bad. 40 cakes is awesome.
Yeah. So, So, I mean, this whole like that process takes a while. Everybody takes some time to read it. There's a lot of murmuring as like people discuss with each other, but after a while, the gods seem to be content with having read it, and those that weren't reading it just clearly aren't going to. So as that's all wrapping up, and Asmodeus finished asking his questions, he turns to Arathis and says, "There's some interesting clauses here," and he looks over at Tiamat. Did you have any input from anyone? And Arathis says, I may have asked around a little bit. And Asmodeus nods. He says, well, I also have a plan that I would like to submit to the group. And he pulls out a significantly thinner tome and puts it on the table, at which point you all also get a copy.
Oh, wow. Joy.
Yay.
Are
What's
there
in the
pictures
thin tome?
Let's read this again.
All right. Everybody give me a diplomacy check.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Ooh, for Matthew.
Damn it, I botched.
It's diplomatic.
I rolled the same thing.
Well, you understand exactly the same thing.
Whoa.
Damn it, Brian.
Nice.
This one's written in Randus speak.
Yeah, clearly Randus's time in court is paying off, which also makes sense for Sakar, because this is exactly why he left court. Yeah, Sakar's had it. He's just like, I didn't know I was going to have to read 2 of these.
Can we start stabbing things yet?
So you guys take some time to read this. And this is a lot lighter and has, in some places, especially after reading the other one and then moving on to this one, there are things that this just like straight up doesn't cover. But as you guys kind of get to sort of the core of it, you see that there is a clause to appoint a moderator for godly disputes.
Oh no.
And oh no is exactly right. The moderator would be divinely appointed again by the power of the treaty, and most of and has several conditions, and some conditions which reduce the power of other conditions and modify them or whatever. But as Rob accurately noted, it's very clear who would end up being the arbiter most of the time. Just from what you guys know of the holdings that Asmodeus has, and his power, and his domains, and his axiomatic alignment, most of the time he is going to be appointed as arbiter by the power of the thing. So essentially he would not have any direct rulership over the universe, but anytime that there was a dispute between gods, he could either be automatically appointed or essentially push to settle a dispute, even if the gods would have otherwise normally have solved it on their own.
Oh God!
That sounds
so he
super
can,
fair.
Yeah.
he can.
But again,
interject
other than that,
himself.
everybody can pretty much do whatever they want, you guys.
I don't trust this cat.
No one trusts this cat.
He's bad.
Or this goat.
Don't trust the goat.
Yep.
So that takes a while as well. So again, we can go down the line. Asmodeus is not reading it. He is just basically just scanning the congregation for reactions. The Obsidian Huntress is still also kind of just facing forward. Loth reads through it. Tiamat doesn't read it. She just has her arms crossed and is still kind of mean-mugging at Asmodeus. Arathis reads it. Melora reads it. Coralon reads it. And Gromish's
Avatar?
Yeah, Gromish's secretary reads it. And Arathis says, well, that was a read. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to submit? And everybody kind of looks around, pauses for a second. Nobody says anything. And she says, all right, well, let us then proceed to vote. Be aware that as you vote, you can also make your opinion known. As we move into the voting phase, I am going to assume that Vecna abstains, as he has not sent an envoy and is not present. He just kind of waits for a little bit. Nothing happens. So
Nobody
she
leaps
says, all right.
forward.
Yep. She says, does anyone else want to? So let us then vote on first. Let everybody show their support for Asmodeus's motion. At which point the cleric raises both arms and says, I have now heard from my lord Grumish. He says both of these plans are pointless, and he will also be abstaining. Horde of Grumsh, move out! And she, disappears in a puff of rage.
Oh, crap.
And like Grumsh's groups like just start like pouring out into the exits.
Bye, Techie.
Nope, he's still there.
Okay.
There's like a handful of people that stayed behind. So there's like maybe a dozen critters still left, like a few humanoids and like a couple demons that, are probably like eating something and don't feel like moving.
Some
I'll leave
thing
with
or
my-
someone.
Popcorn's
Well,
done.
Yeah,
Someone would be a thing.
It's hard to tell what exactly is happening there.
So that means there are still 7 in play.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So Arathis says, all right, I
6.
suppose that is... yes. No,
We started
7.
with 7 at this point, didn't we?
Well, there are 8
So
total.
there's-
That's
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Asmodeus, Loth, Obsidian Huntress, Arathis, Tiamat, Melora, and Coralon are still in play. So 7. Right?
Sounds right.
Yep.
There were 9. We're down 2.
So Asmodeus is... or Arathis says, all right, well, that's one way to making your voice known, I suppose. So, all in favor of Asmodeus' plan, raise your hand. And Asmodeus raises his hand. Lolth raises her hand. And the Obsidian Huntress raises her hand. And Arathis is like, all right, that is noted. Now onto my plan. Those who would like to vote for this plan, raise your hand. And Arathis raises her hand. Tiamat raises her hand. Melora raises her hand. And Coralon raises his hand and then immediately puts it back down and says, well, I don't know. And like Tiamat's like rage stare just like clicks over to Coralon. He's like, we've been living under the Treaty of Worms for like a quadrillion years, and honestly, I'm starting to get like a little tired of all of these restrictions. So I don't know. I'm not really convinced here. And Arathis says, Coralon, there are segments of this plan that are very beneficial to you and your church, almost as though someone had convened with you over them and had agreed upon it ahead of time. It's like, yeah, but I mean, we're a tough group. I don't think it's going to be an issue. And Arathis says, so the other thing that you might want to consider is that if we can't agree on a plan here, other gods are going to wake up, right? And he's like, yeah, more the merrier, I say. And then Arathis says, as you might recall, those gods were sleeping because they were wounded in the War of Entities. Some of them by your blade. So they might not be happy to see you if they wake up. And he says, like, they've had all this time to cool down. I'm really not worried about it. And Tiamat just like slams her fist down on the table, and just through gritted teeth is like, maybe you should think about the state of everything right now. For example, who has forces because they were not involved in the Celestial Crusade, and who brought forth a lot of things and lost a lot of things. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about, if things dissolve, who is currently holding all the cards? And Coralon is like, look, all I'm saying is I'm tired of always having other people tell me what to do all the time. I'm just like, I think everybody should just get to do whatever they want and let the cards fall where they may. So I'm going to abstain. And there is like a huge gasp from the crowd.
Oh, my stars.
Yep.
Aunt B is part of Lulth's battalion, I believe.
So Arathis puts like 2 fingers to her forehead, like she just like a migraine just started. Says, "All right, well, that's 3-4 and 3-4. So neither plan has a majority. I suppose that is it for these negotiations. So, if in the future another plan is put forward and there's enough power behind it, then that will be that. But at this point, this is the end of the Treaty of Worms."
Oh, what a surprise.
We knew it was coming, and even so, it's like horrifying.
Yeah.
Tiamat says, "What a colossal waste of time." And she flies into the air and in the process turns into a, colossal 5-headed dragon monstrosity.
Like you do.
Yeah, like you do. And just flies off and probably like munches on a couple of things on the way up because there's like a bunch of stuff around. At which point the dragon in the audience looks around and kind of spreads his wings and flies off after her. Asmodeus takes a moment, probably more to perform it than just to bask in it, but he has like a slight smile on his face. He looks at Arathis, who just kind of like isn't even looking in that direction. But Asmodeus disappears, Melora disappears, Lolth disappears, and so on and so forth. Each of the remaining gods vanishes until the amphitheater is empty.
I assume they're just vanishing one right after another.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the last one to go?
The last one to go, we'll say, is actually Coralon.
He wants to see the others. Or he got distracted by something shiny.
Yeah. I assume we're far enough away that there's no way to actually get up there and grab someone's attention.
There does not seem to be, no.
Okay.
But a little glowing sphere floats over to Ket.
Yes?
Lady Arathis requests the honor of your presence, please.
Lead on.
You can... And two
should
more.
I follow?
Yeah. You don't want to get stuck by yourself in here.
Fair.
And 2 more archons appear. 2 more lantern archons appear, one in front of Randas and one in front of Orem, and they get a similar invitation.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Lead on. Come along, you guys.
So they lead you down to the bleachers area and into a room that's kind of built into the bleachers. And when you enter, you see that it is a wide room. Arathis is there. She has a couple other lantern archons around her. And you guys see Little Sparkle and Ket walk in from the other side of the room, which doesn't make a lot of sense because they couldn't have walked here that fast. And Little Sparkle and Ket get a similar thing where they walk down the bleachers, walk over to this room, and they see everybody else walk in from the other side.
Interesting.
And the doors shut behind you guys. So the 5 of you are there, and Sarsa, and Arathis, and a bunch of little glowy guys.
Hello.
Hello. Are you still going by Torkel tones?
Sure.
Not Really?
Okay. Then what do I call you?
I would say kind of glance over at Sparkle.
I've recently heard us described as the heroes of legend, which sounds a little grandiose.
I like it.
Or we could just go with truants.
The new free enterprise.
Works for me.
I don't have time for this.
That's fair.
Have a seat.
Okay.
She sits down.
We all sit.
Yeah, do as instructed by the god.
So, it has been brought to my attention that you are all operating under the auspice of Bahamut.
He was aware that this would fail. I was really not expecting Corlon to be the linchpin on that, but
Yeah, I wasn't either.
But he was aware that this was going to happen and fail, and figured since we did such a bang-up job with the Celestial Crusade, we were likely to be able to help fix the aftermath of this.
I see. And what do you plan on doing?
Talking to the gods that wake up and trying to form a new coalition.
I see. Well, I would certainly be interested in leading that coalition.
That's good. We have a lot of research going on, but not enough information yet to go on. If you have any ideas of who is going to wake up that would be amenable to your plan, that would be helpful.
Well, there's no way of knowing that at this point, but it won't be long before that happens. The plan that you saw should still work, but it's going to require a lot more signatures, or rather a lot more power behind it. I will reach out, but I feel that Bahamut did set his sights on you for a reason. I think that you'll be able to accomplish something that someone as visible as one of the gods would not be able to. Should be able to move around with a lot more ease and have your movements less scrutinized, and also just hopefully no one is moving to block you the way that they are already moving to block me.
How many of your brethren are there to possibly even awaken?
Hundreds. In the ancient days, there were hundreds of gods. But I don't think that I don't know that even 100 will awaken. Some of them were injured so grievously that I can't imagine that they would be ready to emerge yet.
How should we communicate with you?
You shouldn't try to. I can get in touch with you when we need to. Know that you have access to my priests, but Shalai has turned into a war zone, so getting in touch with them might be difficult.
Sorry. I am truly terribly sorry about that.
Well, there's a reason why I moved immediately to get the three of you out of the Astral Sea after the war, and that's because without the benefit of time and thought, things could become very dangerous for you. Now, certainly the smaller elements, the shorter-lived elements of the war have become much less aware of you. So try to keep it low profile.
You know us.
Yes, I do. That's why I'm saying that. But you won't be able to for very long, not if you plan on speaking to other gods. So if you can get other gods to pledge their support for my plan, that would be the easiest way to start consolidating power. If they have things that they want to bring to the table as far of it, again, all of this is in flux now. But if they pledge their support to this plan out loud, it should be enough to start getting the wheels moving, and eventually we'll force another meeting, or we'll have the ability to force another meeting.
Do you have any thoughts on what your opponents are likely to do now?
Well, I think everybody is going to wait until everyone who wakes up. And then they will likely move to either get approval for their own plans or get support for their own plans, or they will simply move to block others from getting support for their plans.
How will we know who and where is awakening? Will it be something where there's an obvious sign?
I think it will be fairly obvious.
Is there any other form of assistance you can offer?
Not right at this moment, because I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I will find a way to get more assistance to you.
Mm-hmm. During the last war, when these gods were injured, were there any specific ones that might have been on your side?
Nobody was really on anybody's side during that war. Everybody was trying to consolidate power. Really, the only gods that managed to strike some sort of alliance were the Dark Council and the Pentatheon. So pretty much everyone else was on the outside of that.
Okay.
Is there anyone in particular that you'd prefer we avoid?
I would say, I don't know. As you can see, the end times make for strange bedfellows. So, no, you should try to get as much support as possible.
All right.
Is there anyone that you know would most likely not support you specifically? Did you lay the finishing blow on anyone in particular?
I did not. But there are going to be those that stand opposed to my portfolio, for example. So any gods who stand to lose anything from civilization taking hold would probably be less likely to approve something of mine. But again, as you can see,
bedfellows.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any information on the portfolios of those waking up? Potentially waking up?
I don't know who is waking up.
There's hundreds of gods, presumably, with hundreds of different portfolios.
Do you have, in your libraries, which I know were vast, because I was there, were there any books on the sleeping gods?
Certainly.
Would you be able to get those to us at all, if at all possible?
I might be able to.
Okay. So any information we have is going to help us convince them to side with you.
Agreed. It'll also help you to create the proper approach for any who awaken.
Thank you. I'm sorry your plan didn't work this round.
Oh, it's all right. I suppose I would have liked a heads up if Bahamut already knew that it wasn't going to work, but I guess he had his reasons for keeping that from me.
Prophecy and free world are, as far as I can tell, really complicated.
Not to mention infuriating.
In any case, if you'd like to return to the place that you came from, all you have to do is tear your invitations.
Okay.
Huh.
Oh, no hard feelings about my invitation being the opposite side?
No.
Okay.
Sakar visibly winces as he speaks.
But, and she points at Ket, you have a decision coming.
I know.
You can't play both sides forever.
I'm only playing one side.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Yeah, because of what you just said, it doesn't sound like you understand. I'm just saying, you've got a decision coming.
Okay. We will.
Yes, we'll
Keep
be
in
in touch.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to rip my invitation.
Okay.
I'll do the same.
Yep.
All right, goodbye. Rip.
All right. Everybody rips their invitations?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who has one.
Oh yeah, I guess I don't actually have one.
Yep. We're magical +1s.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, Ket and Randus and Orem tear their invitations, and all 6 of you find yourselves back on the Clouds Arena.
Well, far be it from me to agree with Tiamat, but that was a colossal waste of time.
It's like they don't even know how to bargain and negotiate or even parliamentary procedures.
Unfortunately, I think they probably know far too much.
I just talked to a god.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That happens.
You get used to
And
it.
Hazard argued with a god.
Yeah, that was also crazy.
That, for one as good with words, you often don't know when to shut up.
My entire existence while I'm on the Celestial Sea has been arguing with gods.
That doesn't make it any less unnerving to witness.
From the time they brought me here, that is what they've intended for me to do. Regardless of which god brought me.
Now, we just have to channel those abilities for good. Or for civilization, I guess.
No, for now, it seems like we just kind of have to wait and see.
I suppose.
Sarsa, what was your... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Sarsa if she had any opinions on how we should proceed.
We both, Randus and Orem both say at the same time. So, Sarsa, what did you think?
It is both amazing and disheartening at the same time that Bahamut has been correct about this to such a degree. I think there was a part of me that was hoping that this was going to be incorrect, that he was going to be wrong. It certainly seemed like there was about to be a majority, and maybe all of this would have been completely avoided.
Did Bahamut make any other predictions?
Aside from
the Treaty of Worms falling apart?
And the other gods awake.
Yes, Bahamut has made several predictions, but he only revealed his predictions to people that he thought needed to hear them. That is why he didn't tell anything to Arathis, and why he only had me tell you the ones that I told you. He may still have other irons in the fire, as it were, told to other agents or other people.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Do you know anything that you have not told us?
Yes.
And is this information that you could share with us now?
Yes.
Please do.
No.
Well, thanks for the honesty.
So, all right, I'm sorry. Now that the whole shock of all of that has worn off, Orem, you should see this. And she pulls the ion stone off of where it's rotating around her head and passes it to him.
Okay, I look at it. I put it on my head.
Okay, it starts kind of making a clangy, whining noise, and your helmet starts giving you a headache.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, you have to take off any magical other... Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll take off the magicals and put it back up on my head.
Okay. Yep, Orem finds himself in Old Mawakal.
Do I see the same events play out?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I take the gem off or the stone off. Well, that is... that's sad. And not at all how I wanted things to turn out. And I pass it over to Randus.
Okay. Take off my goggles. Use the stone.
Mm-hmm. Same deal.
Yeah, this is unfortunate, and I guess we can address that if we get this mess resolved.
Yes. But it doesn't look like we'll be talking with the organization anytime soon.
Guess not.
It's tragic given how few of them there were. I'm sure they couldn't really afford to lose someone like this.
Yes.
Look.
Who all did you see?
Lek and the Queen's rebellious daughter. Here, you can see for yourself.
I don't need to.
Okay.
I might.
Here you go, Scar.
Thank you.
Same deal.
Ish.
Well, I think, turning to Sarsa, I think it's probably in our best interest to head back to the island as quickly as possible.
Agreed.
One of you two, pointing at Orm and Randus, may actually want to keep a hold of that.
Yeah, agreed. It seems like it would be useful for brainier types.
Sure.
Sakaar hands it to Randus.
Orm's the one that has the bag of holding.
No, you all have a bag of holding.
Oh, that's true.
Oh no, I mean
hands it
like
to
actually
Randus.
let it
Being able
floating
to
around
use.
your head. It's a powerful magical item.
Oh.
What kind of
Who
powerful,
wants it?
what kind of powerful magic items?
What's it do again?
It's so
+4
good, guys.
bonus to intelligence-based skill checks and intelligence ability checks, and a +5 item bonus to the damage rolls of intelligence-based attacks.
Oh.
Which, that latter part suggests that it should go to Orem,
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yes.
because
Wow.
he hits his
Full
attacks.
perspective.
There is that, but one of Orem's favorite powers doesn't count.
Doesn't have a roll. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that Orem gets a lot of mileage out of his teleport helmet.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, what do your goggles do?
As Eagle Eye Goggles, +2 item bonus to range basic attack rolls, so I don't really use it.
Are they a hat?
They are a hat.
Okay.
Yeah, then I'd say
Definitely
be-
Randus.
Randus is probably.
yeah, exactly. That's a
probably
pretty
good for
major
that.
upgrade.
Okay.
Sakaar continues handing it to Randus.
I'll
Alright.
take it. What is it?
So it is an Ion Stone of Intellect, is a level 21 item. And it's in Mordenkainen's Magnificent Emporium.
Man, the one I want is the least useful one.
The language one.
No, the bigger one. +4 item bonus to constitution-based skill checks.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Plus-
only
plus
the
five.
one of those.
Yeah, so +4 item bonus to
Endurance.
stamina, endurance. Yeah,
Yeah.
to endurance, and +5 item bonus to all of my attacks.
Yeah.
Not even all of my attacks. I have one charisma-based attack.
Yeah, definitely not all Ion Stones are made the same, but
The other 5 are all better, are all more worthwhile.
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll head back to the base and end it right there this week. Thank you, everyone, for checking us out. Don't forget to use the hashtag Critical Hit when you're talking about the shows online. We'd love to see those that hashtag light up on Sundays and throughout the week. If you have any questions, you can send them to podcast@majorspoilers.com. And until next time, here's hoping all of your dice rolls are critical hits.
This podcast is copyright 2018 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.